Good evening, it's 8 o'clock. The top headlines tonight. A dramatic drone attack on the dome of the Kremlin in Moscow. Russia says this was a Ukrainian attempt to assassinate President Putin. The Kremlin says that 2 unmanned drones were shot down by Russian forces. Ukraine denies involvement in the drone attack. Russia says it's a terrorist attack. We reserve right to take countermeasures. And amid this, Russia's foreign minister arrives in Goa tomorrow for a multilateral meet hosted by India. Amid increased tension, that key meeting will be held from tomorrow in Goa. India and China foreign ministers will have a bilateral meet on the sidelines at the SCO summit, but Foreign Minister Jaishankar will not meet separately with Pakistan Zardari.
Bajrang Bali ki! Bajrang Bali ki!
Jai Bajrang Bali chants as the Prime Minister uses this at every Karnataka rally. 1 week to go, the Karnataka campaign hits the final stretch. Does a proposed Bajrang Dal ban in its manifesto backfire for the Congress party? Congress leaders bark the buck on whose idea this actual ban was. Supriya Sule for NCP president, says senior leader Chhagan Bhujbal. Chhagan Bhujbal tells NDTV that Supriya should be national president, stepping into her father's shoes, and Ajit Pawar should handle Maharashtra affairs. Is this the new Pawar family formula? NDTV exclusive. Go first passengers now go last. Angry and upset at airports across the country today as India's third largest airline grounds flights, saying it's on the verge of insolvency. It's also bad news for Indian banks with loans to go first. A Cabinet Secretary Committee for Rights for Same-Sex Couples, as the Supreme Court had asked. The committee will look at legal rights for same-sex couples even without marriage. Nearly 40 crores cash in 8 years from Jal Shakti. A senior government official, an ex-government official from that PSU is arrested, and his son. 1 crore meanwhile found in a tree in election time cash in Karnataka. The United Kingdom gears up for King Charles' grand coronation, but is it out of sync with the modern Britain, as it's going to cost taxpayers over 1,000 crores in Indian rupees? Our lead story tonight, that dramatic drone attack on a dome of the Kremlin in Moscow. But what does it actually mean? What are the implications for the Ukraine-Russia war and on global foreign policy? We'll be tracking that with Vishnu and Maha. But let's just first look at those visuals. And remember, this is also, the Kremlin is President Putin's official headquarters. So it's really an attack on the heart of the Russian government. But these are all based on Russian claims so far. Let's just look at those visuals. Vishnu, what are the details we actually know of this? Ukraine has denied any involvement. Russia has already issued a statement. What are the big headlines coming out of those visuals? What is the meaning of this?
Well, number one, Russia says that it retains the right to retaliate at a time of its choosing. They have labeled this an attack by Kiev. They have referred to it as a terrorist attack, but pointing the blame of that attack on the Ukraine. The Ukraine, for their part, have said that no, it was not us. We don't use our weaponry to attack the soil of another country. We know that that is not correct. There have been audacious Ukrainian attacks on undisputed Russian territory. As far as this drone is concerned, there are 2 possibilities. One, that it is a very long-range drone. Remember, the closest between Moscow and the Ukrainian border is approximately 300 kilometers. They don't have any drones to fly this far, but they were trying to get old Russian missiles, which they've had from the USSR days, to actually be converted to fly as drones and fly at an extreme range. However, one other possibility, yes, Sonia, this could in fact be a much smaller drone which was launched from within Moscow to hit this target. But
Vishnu, how would it have got into such a heavily guarded airspace? Does this seem extremely likely? What are the theories going around on how I mean, we are seeing that explosion, but this was, of course, 2 unmanned drones which apparently hit the Kremlin dome.
Well, the Russians say that they were able to jam these drones, and it does appear that that is the case, because if they electronically diffuse the drones or jam the drones as they actually came, what you see is the impact of the drone with the surface. However, the warhead actually exploding is a completely different issue. That could be just fuel which has gone off, not necessarily the warhead, because the damage is extremely superficial. That's absolutely clear.
Maha, let's just go across to you now. Now, you're, of course, in Goa, where India is hosting the Shanghai Cooperation Organization meet, and Russia's foreign minister actually arrives here tomorrow. How significant is the Russian statement saying that we now have the right, we reserve the right for any countermeasures? Now, this comes also after Russia has stepped up its attacks, its missile attacks on Ukraine in the last week.
It's very significant, and especially in the context of India, because India does not only hold the chair for the SCO this year, but also the presidency of G20. And for the larger part of this year, India has been trying to get some sort of consensus going so as to make its presidency and chairmanship of SCO a success. For G20, a consensus between various countries so as to be able to come out with a communique will be very important. And therefore, India has been trying to communicate on the one hand with Russia, on the other with the Western nations, and that communication continues. But this sort of escalation is really not going to be good. India will have its task cut out to get some sort of middle ground between the West and Russia. The chasm only seems to be increasing. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov is going to be landing in Goa tomorrow morning, and he's going to hold bilateral talks with India's External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar at around 3 p.m. tomorrow, and this will be in the backdrop of this claimed assassination bid that Kremlin is laying the blame on Kiev for. Let me also quickly give you a glimpse of what else shall we expect at the SCO meeting of foreign ministers that is going to be held on the 5th, because the Pakistan Foreign Minister Bilawal Bhutto Zardari is also going to be in India, though sources have said that do not expect a bilateral meeting between him and S. Jaishankar. India's External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar landing in Goa to host the foreign ministers of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, or the SCO. The meeting, to be held in Benalim in Goa, will build the ground for the crucial summit in July. A summit of the Eurasian Security Group with anti-West countries like China and Russia. This year being helmed by India just months before the G20 summit in September, where the West tries to call the shots. But amidst the larger multilateral agenda, the focus will be on one-on-one meetings that Jaishankar holds, or rather not holds. But as per sources, there is unlikely to be a structured bilateral meeting with the Pakistani counterpart Bilawal Bhutto Zardari. Here's why. India had taken a stand after the Uri terror attack that terror and talks won't go together. The situation hasn't changed much, especially with the recent Poonch terror attack in which India lost 5 of its jawans.
It is for us very difficult to engage with a neighbor who practices cross-border terrorism against us. We have always said that they have to deliver on their commitment not to encourage, sponsor and carry out cross-border terrorism. We continue to hope that one day we would reach that stage.
However, despite the Eastern Ladakh friction entering the 3rd year and India having lost 20 soldiers in Galwan clashes in June 2020, the doors of communication remain open at the foreign ministers level with China. S. Jaishankar will meet his counterpart Qing Yang on Thursday. India is once again expected to communicate that the overall bilateral relationship remains adversely impacted due to the border situation. External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar will also hold bilateral talks with his Russian counterpart Sergei Lavrov. This one-on-one conversation is very significant in the backdrop of the continued war in Ukraine and with the latest development of what Kremlin claims to be an assassination bid on Russian President Vladimir Putin. India does not only hold the chair of the SCO, but is also the president of the G20 this year. And therefore, engaging with Russia on the one side and the Western countries on the other is very critical for India to be able to strike a consensus and make its presidency a success. With camera person Rajendra Dayalkar, this is Maha Siddiqui in Goa for NDTV.
The other big headline tonight, the Prime Minister on a Karnataka campaign final countdown with 12 public meetings by the Prime Ministers from the 29th of April and 3 roadshows so far, and he'll spend 2 nights in Karnataka as well. But today the big focus at each rally was slogans of Jai Bajrang Bali.
बजरंग बली की, ये बजरंग बली की, बजरंग बली की, बजरंग बली की.
The Prime Minister going on the offensive after the Congress manifesto on Tuesday promised a ban on the Bajrang Dal.
कांग्रेस कर्नाटका को दिल्ली में उनका जो शाही परिवार बैठा है ना, उस शाही परिवार का नंबर 1 एटीएम बनाना चाहती है.
The Bajrang Dal is a controversial group, part of the RSS BJP Sangh Parivar, and has been linked to various incidents of violence. But as the Prime Minister went on the offensive, the Congress appeared to go on the defensive, with the party chief reluctant to explain why they announced this. On the other hand, DK Shivakumar, seen as a CM contender, took on the Prime Minister, while Kharge's son, a candidate, defended the move as a proposal to ban any fringe elements.
So what was the thinking behind, including that in the manifesto, that is banning of Bajrang Dal? What was the thinking behind?
This is already Dr. Parmeshwar has clarified. He was a chairman of drafting committee of that. So he has already yesterday replied, I don't want to reply.
Agreed, you're the president, sir, but why did
No, I don't want to reply that. Once my party people have replied.
ನಾವು ಆಂಜನೇಯನ ಭಕ್ತರು. ಬಜರಂಗ್ ದಳಗೂ ಹನುಮಂತಂಗೂ ಏನು ವ್ಯತ್ಯಾಸ? ಹನುಮಂತನೇ ಬೇರೆ, ಬಜರಂಗ್ ದಳನೇ ಬೇರೆ. ಇಟ್ ಇಸ್ ಔಟ್ಫಿಟ್. ಏನು ಆಂಜನೇಯನ ಹೆಸರು ಇಟ್ಕೊಬಿಟ್ಟ ಬಜರಂಗ್ ದಳ ರಾಜ್ಯ ಅವರು ಕಾನೂನಿನ ವ್ಯವಸ್ಥೆನ ಮಿಸ್ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ.
We are very clear in the manifesto saying that any fringe elements will be banned. Any fringe elements. It doesn't matter whom it is backed by.
The BJP is taking the issue nationwide. In Madhya Pradesh, a senior BJP minister, Narottam Mishra, asking the Congress's state chief Kamal Nath on whether they intended to ban the Bajrang Dal in the state too. Elections are due in MP later this year. NDTV Bureau Report.
The other big political story, who's going to take over from NCP Supremo Sharad Pawar, one of the Maharashtra's political stalwarts, in fact the tallest leader currently in Maharashtra. NDTV has learned that Supriya Sule, Sharad Pawar's daughter, is likely to be his successor as national president. But Ajit Pawar will be the NCP Supremo in Maharashtra. Today, a senior party leader, Chhagan Bhujbal, came out saying that this is his recommendation as well. Supriya Sule for national president, Ajit Pawar for Maharashtra.
As a procession of NCP leaders trooped in and out of Sharad Pawar's office to convince him to continue as party chief, maneuverings on his successor appear to have begun. Speaking to NDTV, a top leader and a Pawar aide, Chhagan Bhujbal, said Supriya Sule, Pawar's daughter, should be the next chief.
Jit Dada, now he's looking after Vidhan Sabha and Maharashtra state. So we'll continue like that because state is very important.
Correct.
And since Supriya Tai, she is a parliamentary in there, and of course she knew the working of Pawar Sahab also. So let her see the national problems.
On Tuesday, Pawar, in a concession to the protests, said he would rethink after 2 to 3 days.
But while Pawar Senior has agreed to rethink, he has not relented yet. The party insists that he stays on his current position and any change in leadership happen under him and not without him.
Praful Patel, another contender, has ruled himself out. He says no talks of a new leader until Pawar decides.
But I'm sure a lot of senior leaders across the country have expressed their maybe their concerns directly to him or to some of our colleagues. So, well, that is expected. After all, Mr. Sharad Pawar is a very senior leader of the country. He is not just the president of NCP. He has his own stature standing in the country.
Amidst protests and appeals, NCP sources say Bhushan Bagal, a party worker from Solapur, even sent a letter written in blood requesting Mr. Pawar to withdraw his resignation. Another key aide, Jitendra Awad, resigned. The Congress and the Uddhav Thackeray faction of the Shiv Sena projecting the developments as an internal issue of the NCP.
हमारी भूमिका वेट एंड वॉच की है। पवार साहब का इस्तीफा ये देश की राजनीति में जब एक बड़ी न्यूज़ है या धक्का है, लेकिन ये उनके पार्टी का भी एक अंदरूनी मामला है।
Sharad Pawar has not revealed what he's going to do next, but obviously his decision will not only have an impact on Maharashtra politics but also national politics, which is why you can see NCP workers still imploring him to take back his resignation. What will Sharad Pawar do? That's the big question. With Sohit Mishra and camera person GD Shankar at the YB Chavan Center in Mumbai, Saurabh Gupta, NDTV.
Other big focus tonight, India's third largest airline, Go First, is in trouble. And that means currently that it's not just about passengers, but also about lenders to it, with major Indian banks having major loan exposure to Go First. Also, the scenes at airports with Go First passengers was anger and confusion, with the third largest airline now on the verge of insolvency.
Angry Go First flyers left stranded at the Delhi airport. A day after, the airline cancelled all its flights abruptly, following its plea for insolvency. Thousands of passengers left in the lurch at airports across India, claiming that they had no prior information about the suspension of flights.
कोई इंटीमेशन नहीं दिया पहली बार।
कोई इंटीमेशन नहीं दिया।
यहाँ के पता चला है कि फ्लाइट कैंसिल है।
तो आपको मैसेज भी नहीं आया है एयरलाइन की तरफ से?
कोई सूचना नहीं।
तो आप लोग कितनी देर से यहाँ पर मौजूद हैं?
अभी तो 2 घंटे हो गए ऑलमोस्ट।
और आपको रिफंड भी नहीं मिला है और किसी तरीके का रीशेड्यूल हुई है?
कोई रिफंड नहीं मिला है, बोला है कि 7 डे लगेंगे। और अभी
पहले नहीं बताया गया ना, बात तो यही है ना, पहले बताते तो हम पहले अरेंज भी करते कुछ।
तो आपकी कोई इमरजेंसी कहीं आपको जाना था बाहर?
घर जाना है इमरजेंसी में।
आप लोग स्टूडेंट्स हैं क्या इस समय?
स्टूडेंट्स हैं, यहाँ घूमने आए थे, यहाँ तो ये हो रहा है, सोचा था अच्छा एयरपोर्ट है, घटिया एयरपोर्ट भी।
Responding to passenger woes, the airline said a full refund will be issued to the original mode of payment shortly. We acknowledge the flight cancellations might have disrupted your travel plans, and we are committed to providing all the assistance we can. Passengers with a cancelled ticket can go to the customer section of the Go First website, which redirects the user to all refund-related questions. The cash-strapped company, India's third largest air carrier, has put the blame on a US-based engine supplier.
Go First said that it had to cancel flights due to an ever-increasing number of failing engines supplied by the US-based company Pratt & Whitney. The company says that its exclusive engine supplier P&W, that powers over 90% of its aircraft, has refused to supply new engines or repair existing ones. This led to Go First grounding 25 aircraft, which is 50% of its Airbus A320 Neo fleet. But in response, the US engine maker P&W has hit back at the Wadia Group airline, saying that it has a lengthy history of missing its financial obligations to Pratt & Whitney.
The aviation watchdog has come down heavily on Go First for cancelling flights without warning, directing the airline to submit the details of the steps it has taken to mitigate inconvenience caused to its passengers. The aviation minister said that the government is assisting the beleaguered airline in what it called an unfortunate situation. Angry passengers here at the Delhi airport and similar scenes across all major airports of India because of the abrupt cancellation of flights by Go First. Now, flights will remain cancelled for the next 2 days as well, and sources say that a decision on the operations of the airline will be taken after the 5th of May. In New Delhi with camera person Sushil Rathi, Vedant for NDTV.
Arguments began again in front of the Constitutional Bench on the landmark issue of whether same-sex couples should be allowed to be married. In this today, the Chief Justice of India said it's about enforceable fundamental rights, and the existence of same-sex couples is part of our society. It's not imported. The argument is about choice. It's not that singles lack dignity or marriage is the only source of dignity, but it's about a fundamental right. This was in response to an argument by a lawyer saying that this was imported from across the seas. Also today, the centre has proposed a panel which will look at the genuine human concerns of the LGBTQIA community. The centre says the panel will be headed by the Cabinet Secretary and will look at how you can ensure legal rights like property, insurance by same-sex couples even without marriage. Here are the key arguments today.
We have a constitution with an enforceable chapter on fundamental rights.
Yes, but fundamental rights don't operate in vacuum. They are all meant for ultimately to operate in the context of a society, given society. And that's why I'm averse, Lord, when some of us, Lord, try to cross the seas, Lord, and we try bring Obergefell here, bring Lord Fori here. So
no, but Mr. Dwivedi, let's be very clear. The existence of same-sex couples is not something which has been imported from some ocean-going.
No,
it's as much a part of our society as
it's part of society, and there is another aspect which is not looked at.
The argument is not that people who are single lack dignity, or that marriage is the only source of dignity. The point is about choice.
Well, the other big headline, and this is really about how cash remains king for some. This is the CBI's biggest cash seizure. Almost 40 crores in cash seized, actually 38.8 crores from the ex-chief managing director of a firm linked to the water ministry. The cash seized from an ex-government official. He was the chief managing director of WAPCO, so water and power consultancy services. He and his son have been arrested, and the wealth was allegedly accumulated in his 8-year term at this government-backed firm. So there it is, the CBI releasing pictures of 38.8 crores in cash found from his residence and his son's residence. Both of them have been arrested. Meanwhile, in Karnataka, the Election Commission also cracking down. So look what they found here. They raided the residence of the brother of a Karnataka Congress leader, and 1 crore cash was found hidden in a tree as IT department officials raided the Mysuru home of Subramania Rai, the brother of a Karnataka Congress leader, Ashok Kumar. The United Kingdom is gearing up for King Charles' grand coronation, but does the UK really care? Because, of course, taxpayers are footing that huge bill, and also much controversy over an oath that the British public is expected to take for their new king.
The coronation of King Charles III is going to be British royalty's biggest day out. A spectacle with a parade of crowns, tiaras, uniforms, sashes, pomp, pageantry and press, watched by millions worldwide, and yet nobody has watched one in the last 70 years. King Charles will wear a series of coronation garments previously worn by his mother, grandfather and great-grandfather, in a break from the tradition of monarchs usually wearing new items for the ceremony. People watching the coronation will be invited to join a chorus of millions to swear allegiance to the king and his heirs. This plan, though, faced backlash, with many calling out an offensive, tone-deaf gesture that holds the people in contempt. Meanwhile, Queen Consort Camilla will be crowned not with the Kohinoor diamond, a win for Indian diplomacy, but with the Cullinan diamonds. However, Cullinan diamonds are also the collateral of British imperialism from Africa. Is it then just a swap of a gesture given current geopolitics of which former colony to appease? Buckingham Palace also confirmed that Prince Harry would attend the coronation alone.
I think he is the people's king.
Is it fair that there is so much attention and resource being put into a massive coronation celebration?
there are bigger things happening in Britain right now.
A recent poll, however, says the response may be tepid on London's streets. Just last week, a poll suggested British public support for the monarchy was at a historic low. Days earlier, another said nearly 4 in 10 young adults wanted an elected UK head of state. The wealth of the royal family at a time of cost of living pressures is one factor that seems to sharply divide the British public. Parmeshwar Bava for NDTV.